Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Golf Race Fuels Racing Zone presented by Stone Ridge Specialty Insurance here at the Motorama Custom Car and Motorsports Expo, also streaming live on TrackTune. Next up, I have Tom Pokorny, part of the Board of Governors for Targa Newfoundland. Now, you're from here in Ontario, but as far as an exhibitor goes, Targa Newfoundland must be the furthest east here in the racing zone this year. What should people know about Targa Newfoundland?
Okay, well, Targa Newfoundland is a tarmac rally, so it sets it apart from other rallies that take place. And the word Targa is actually Italian for the word shield. So the original Targa, the Targa Florio, the competitors, if they manage to complete it, they would win a shield. And so that is the point of Targa Newfoundland. So it is a tarmac rally race. It's a road adventure, a motorsports adventure that takes place over 6 days. And if you are successful, if you complete all of the stages, within your allotted time, you do win what we call the Targa plate. And so that is the one thing that we all compete for, and we want to win and put over our fireplaces and celebrate that achievement.
That's an interesting bit of history I didn't hear about before. So I guess sort of going back to the ancient times, or like how far back
goes
is
back
winning a
to
shield?
the early 1900s, to the best of my recollection. And and that's what sets something like a Targa apart, is that we race on public roads that are paved and they are closed. So we close public roads that people would normally drive on or commute on or all of that, and we turn it into a giant racetrack. Targa takes place over the course of 6 days, 2,000 kilometers, and it is not, we're not repeating, the same corners over and over again as you would on a racetrack, like on a lap weekend. So for a lot of the competitors, when you run Targa, you've never seen that corner before. You don't know what's coming up over that crest. You don't know what's ahead, and so you always have a navigator with you to tell you what's coming up. So as the driver, you can push it just a little bit further than you would normally be comfortable with, because someone is actually telling you what's up ahead.
Okay, so an interesting sort of blend there of like what would be a traditional CRCs type of rally where you still have that co-driver, but also racing through these communities, really. And I know there being like quite a variety from like smaller towns to places like Gander that was on the schedule last year. So as far as this year's stages, I know it runs from September 10th through September 18th, and that the exact schedule is still in the works for where they're going. But what can people expect for what we know now for these stages?
Sure. So one of the beauties of Targa Newfoundland is, as you're competing through the days, so 6 days of competition, the days actually get more difficult. So the first day stages tend to be, rolling, nice sweeping corners, beautiful scenery, all of that. And then slowly it starts to mix in things like town stages, where town stages, you're literally racing through a residential neighborhood, and next to people's driveways, front lawns, parked cars, and you're drifting around corners. And the culmination of the event is in a town called Brigus. Brigus was settled in the 1600s in Newfoundland. And as we race through it, there's, hundreds of year-old brick walls 3 inches from your mirror. And on the other side of your mirror is a lawnmower and someone's private property and a fence, and you're blowing through that as fast as you can. And that's kind of like the adrenaline rush, the finale that we work towards at the end of those 6 days, and it's an absolute thrill.
Yeah, that's got to be quite something. And for even the people there, like I know a lot of, if we see for the major series, street races where people are on their balconies in these big skyscrapers, but here's someone in their small town in Newfoundland able to experience that. So what has that reaction been like from the local community?
So what happens with the communities is we do outreach ahead of time, so everyone knows when is Targa coming through, what the road close sequence of events looks like when we start taping driveways and running cars through to let people know that they can't go on the road between such and such a time. And for the most part, what we see is people are thrilled to have this adventure come to their front door. So we'll have people cheering us on. You feel like a famous race car driver. You're going through these towns and there's people waving. You look at rock outcroppings and there's people up, above you, filming you and looking down. And a lot of the times what we do is at the end of the day's races, we'll have a place where, the cars all sort of come into a corral. We inspect them and all of that. And the locals will come out and do their own car show in conjunction with the cars that come to Newfoundland. So it's a really, really good time. And the first year that I did Targa, which was in 2023, we had people, kids were coming up to us with their cars, asking us to sign their dashboards, their trunk lids with Sharpies, and then they gloss coated that over as a memento of when we rolled through. This was Clarenville, I believe, when we rolled through their town. And it really is a thrill to feel like you're almost like motorsports royalty, as everyone just they love it. It's a good time.
It kind of is giving me a Tour de France sort of vibes there, where you got people out waving their flags and everything. So I
Yeah.
guess it's racing's equivalent to that. And I guess another thing, we'll see how good I am at pronouncing. There's Targa Rotoura, Targa Duemila. What's the difference between these?
Sure. So the Duemila is the full 6-day event, and the Rotoura is a 4-day competitive event. So what happens is, if somebody doesn't think that they want to do the whole 6 days, we have an event that it cuts the last 2 days off to just make it a little bit easier, because a lot of what happens is, sometimes people just don't have that much time, and we'd love to at least have them come out for a taste of the event. And a lot of the times people will either elect to just stay, and they'll say, hey, you know what, maybe I do want to stay for those 2 days, and they'll just, they'll join us for the rest of the event. So the word Rotoura, there's actually no historical significance there other than Rotoura, and it just kind of worked out, and that's where it came from. But yeah, it's just a shortened version.
Interesting. So that's a good variety there to give people options. And I guess as with like any sort of type of racing like this, there must be different divisions, different classes,
Correct.
depending on the cars and the driver skill. So what are those different divisions?
Sure. So there are 4 different divisions currently at Targa. So the first division would be is a tour division. And so that is, if your car is road legal, it doesn't have to be race prepped. This is for the adventurous couples, the adventurous families, or the adventurous friends that just want a taste of what this looks like without the added stress of competition. And we get that a lot, where someone will say, I'd love to experience Targa, but they don't want to, race prep a car and just jump, and start racing against drivers. And so we have Targa Tours set up where you can just enter with anyone you like as a navigator, with any car you like, as long as it's road legal, and share the same, it's the same road. It's the same track. We don't cut any of the actual adventure out of it, other than it's just not competitive and the speeds are lower. We GPS track the cars and we make sure that they stay within a reasonable speed so that they don't hurt themselves. But as an example, we had a father-daughter team last year that ran in a Honda Fit, straight stock Honda Fit, and they had the time of their lives. And then watching them race was just incredible. The next division up is what we call Grand Touring, the GT class, and that is your traditional time, speed, distance rally, where you have a speed, you have to complete the stage within a prescribed average speed, and you get penalized for being faster, and you get penalized for being slower. And so there's what we call time checks, or ITCs, in the middle, where we know the average, so you can't drive 3 kilometers an hour to the end. And so that is, a lot of people enjoy the challenge of precision driving, and it's a really nice event to watch, because the navigator has so much control over what happens, because they'll be yelling at the driver, slow down, speed up, you're too fast, 3 seconds off, whatever it is. So when you then re-watch, if they're recording the inside of the car or whatnot, you get some really great interactions, and especially the husband and wife teams. They'll be yelling at each other, and then they get to the end of the stage and they're all hugging and they're happy, and it's wonderful. And so the next one would be Targa 1. So the Targa 1 division is for a car that has a roll hoop, not a full cage. And so that is the first actual competitive division where people are racing to win against the other competitors. And so the speeds are slightly higher than you would have in the previous 2 categories. And so the preparation is there for safety, but it's not a fully prepped race car. So it's like an introduction into the event, and it's a very popular division for us, and we have a lot of rivalries there. And it's a first event where you really have that stress of competition and the drive to win and to succeed. And that's Targa 1 and the next one, which is Targa 2, are the only divisions that you can earn a Targa plate for competing. The other ones, there's no plate. Actually, I believe GT, you do get a plate. I apologize. Targa 2 is a fully prepped race car. Roll cage, Hans device and all of that, with much higher top speeds. And this is the the upper crust of the competitors. This is where when you win, you're the king of Targa. If you win Targa 2, you're king of the hill, and that's a very competitive division, and that's the most thrilling to watch, the highest top speeds. And so we have it set up so no matter what if you've never driven any road rally before, we have a spot for you. If you enjoy driving for precision, we have a spot for you. You want to go fast, but you're not quite sure, we have that for you. Or if you're just out there to win, no matter what, we've got that for you as well.
Wow, so definitely lots of options there. And I guess they'd be sort of spread out so that they're not overlapping with each other, or how would that?
Correct, yeah. So basically what we're after is safety. That's priority for us. And we have a tremendously good safety record. And so what we want to ensure is that every competitor that goes out, we manage their risk level, and so that we don't have any, bad accidents or anything like that when we go out on the track, which is a road. And so in the less prepped a car is, the slower the top speed we have to let them run. And all the cars are GPS monitored, and we take that very seriously. So when you reach what we've assigned your top speed is, if you go over, there are penalties for that, or you may get ejected out of the event. And it sounds draconian, but again, we're after safety. And as far as Targas go, we have a very enviable safety record.
Yeah, and I definitely know that's something that's been emphasized in past years as well, so that's definitely great to see. And I know even as far as rallies go, like this event draws a large number of drivers from all over the place. I believe it's like down in Georgia where we have like some of the top competitors in a recent year from what I remember reading. So who are some of those drivers and where are they from?
Sure. So, we have some drivers. We have a team, two brothers that come up from Florida every year. And, wonderful, wonderful guys. And they've developed a rivalry with, so they're the Marshall brothers. And they've developed a rivalry, or we're trying to stoke a rivalry between them and a local Ontario team as they drive very similar cars. But they travel up from Florida every year. We have, in the past, we had teams come in from California. We had 2 years ago, there was Jelly Bean. They drove their Beaumont from Vancouver to St. John's, raced it, and then drove back. Jelly Bean Autocrafters in their Beaumont, and that was something to see. So we do have competitors from all around the world. We have a lot of Americans that come up and race with us. Randy Pops, who's almost a household name when it comes to motorsports, he races with us. And we're thrilled to have such an eclectic collection of people from, like I said earlier, the father-daughter teams, the family teams, the husband and wife teams, all the way up until professional drivers that are there to win and have their name, kind of stamped in the annals of Targa history.
And not only from the driver perspective, but also from the vehicles. There's quite a bunch of different makes and models, I'm sure. And I saw that there will be the first ever EV entry this year, too.
Correct.
It's something different. So what are some of those different vehicles that people can see?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that one of the things is minis seem to be doing very well in Targa. And we almost made the joke that in order to win Targa at this point, you have to bring a mini. As a mini won both Targa 1 and Targa 2 last year. And I believe the year before, was the same case. A Mini 1, Targa 1, and Targa 2. And so we have our fair share of Subarus, WRXs that show up and race. A lot of Porsches. We had, I believe it was an 89 911 that raced 2 years ago. That was just a wonderful car. I couldn't believe it made it through. I was placing bets it wouldn't survive 3 days. This was an unprepped car, and it just sailed right through, no problem. And this year in 2026, we've got a GT4 RS, GT3 RS, GT2. So Porsches, we've got a lot of Porsches coming this year. So they're very well represented. A Cayenne, maybe, if I recall correctly. So we've got basically the whole spread of the Porsche lineup. Oh, and a Porsche Dakar is coming this year.
Wow.
How cool is that? Yeah, very cool. Right down to your Hyundai Elantras. We've had an entry of a Hyundai Elantra that may or may not have been a rental car. We don't talk about that. We've had, daily drivers up until fully prepped rally cars. Like we had a gentleman come out in his Ford, I believe it was a Fiesta, Savage Motorsports, fully prepped rally car, and the sound that came out of this car in the start line, it was like earplug worthy. It was so loud, and it just launched, and I believe he set a record stage at Brigus on the final day with that car, and the video is available online. It was fast.
That seems quite shocking, too, that there can be such a variety of how prepped or unprepped a race is. So that So what are some of those vehicle and safety requirements for people to go racing?
Sure. So a lot of it is centered around the roll cage, safety. So we're after safety. So, to be quite honest, we've actually relaxed a lot of the rules based around, engine displacement, engine power, things like that, because our main concern is your rollover protection, roll cage if you're in the faster, tier Targa 2. That's what we're after. So Hans devices, 5-point harnesses, those sorts of things we look for in the higher categories. So in the slower categories, like in the tour and things like that, we have things that are recommended to do. So if you can get a 5-point harness, it may help. But also there's a checklist of things that you need to bring with you. Everyone needs a fire extinguisher. Everyone has a GPS tracker in the car, so we know where they are, how fast they're going, and all of this. And so, you'd be surprised that the prep for the vehicle is not as difficult to wrap your head around, because, to be quite frank, if you want to bring a rear-wheel drive car, a front-wheel drive car, you want to put a turbo on it, any of that stuff, you can only go so fast on these roads. The main thing is we're looking for very specific, when it comes to constructing the roll cage, we have our rules and regs, a very specific thickness of steel construction that we do inspect during the event, because when accidents happen at Targa, it's not clean necessarily. You can go into the woods, you go into the ditch on the side of the road. Robert Canoe, who loves to talk about the Newfoundland roads and tells everybody the ditches on the side of the road is where the Newfoundlanders store their rocks. So again, we're mostly after safety when it comes to vehicle prep. So we don't dictate the size of your brakes, we don't dictate how big your engine could be, but we do dictate that your roll cage is built to a certain specification. That is important.
And I remember from visiting there too, lots of potholes in some parts of the province, so that's another
Correct.
problem.
Yeah, so we have had people mention the potholes to us, and I'll be quite honest with you, potholes are a part of driving in Targa. And one of the things is you have there's a route book that you have to follow to run the race. The potholes are marked. For the most part, there may be a sneaky one that catches you off guard, but for the most part, the potholes are marked, and it's your navigator's job to communicate with the driver that there's a pothole coming up. And sometimes the driver's in that red mist, and they just, sometimes you hit it, and we always tell them, well, listen, it was there in the book. Why did you hit it? It was there in the book. But it does happen, and some stages are rougher than others, and that's why when someone preps a car for Targa, we always recommend do not lower it. Do not lower your car. You do not need a lowered track car for Targa. What you're looking for is a car that will last you for 6 days. You need a car that will last. You don't need a car that's 2 inches lower that gives you just a little bit more cornering. You don't need that. You need a car that will survive the elements. You need a car that will survive being punished for 6 days. That sort of thing, rather than power and
durable suspension, I guess.
Durable suspension. Yeah, exactly.
And what else should people know, and where can they find more info about Targa Newfoundland?
Yeah, so everything you need to know, one of us can tell you. So you can find us at targanfld.com, Targa, or just search Targa Newfoundland, and you can search us on Instagram. You can search us on the web. You can send us a note if you're at all interested. We would love to hear from you. There are people that would like to spectate, and we have had people join us. They hop on the ferry with us and they spectate Targa Newfoundland. We have people that would love to volunteer. And I'll be quite honest, I've had just as much fun volunteering for the event as I have running the event and competing in it. So, and we'd love to hear from you. It's a real adventure that brings people together in a way that I've never seen in motorsports. I've done track days, I've done adventures, I've done driving tours, I've done any number of things. Targa Newfoundland has spoiled motorsports for me because nothing is like Targa. It's just something that stays with you forever, and the people that you spend the time with and compete against or compete together with, you won't forget them. It's a real adventure.
Yeah, and it's definitely got to be quite unique in that there are people who race together each week. This is a once-a-year thing, but it's over an extended period of time, sort of like an Olympics would be. So it's definitely a unique thing and cool for people to check out indeed. Tom Pokorny, part of the Board of Governors at Targa Newfoundland, thanks for speaking with me.
Well, thanks for having me.